Yeah, I always wanted, since last year, I always wanted to give something back, and at the end, I think in these first appearances, I gave them something back, but I want to keep on giving them something back because the support they gave to me every match is fantastic. I mean, I like the chant. I don't think it's nothing wrong with it. I mean, yeah, but I have to give them back more. I have to give, because the support is just amazing.
4 years ago, Federico Chiesa was Italy's golden boy, a Euro 2020 hero, valued at over €100 million and tipped to lead Juventus into a new era. Fast forward, and he was sold to Liverpool for less than €15 million after injuries nearly ended his rise. But now, under Arne Slot, Chiesa looks reborn. This is the rollercoaster story of Federico Chiesa, the rise, the fall, and maybe the rise again. Federico Chiesa's story starts in Genoa, where he was born on October 25, 1997. Football was never far from him. His father, Enrico Chiesa, was a striker who had a long career in Serie A and even played for Italy. Growing up in that kind of environment meant football wasn't just a hobby, it was almost a natural path for him. But Federico wasn't simply living in his father's shadow. From a young age, he had a style of his own, quick, fearless on the ball, and full of energy. His first steps in the game came with a small local club called Settignano, and that's really where people began to notice that this kid was different. Even back then, his pace and ability to take players on stood out. He wasn't just playing, he was making an impression every time he touched the ball. That early foundation at Settignano would open the door for something bigger, a move to Fiorentina, where he would spend most of his youth career. When Chiesa joined Fiorentina's academy, that's where his real development began. He wasn't the biggest kid in his age group, but his intensity made him stand out. Coaches constantly praised his work ethic. He was the type who pressed defenders, tracked back, and still had enough energy to take on opponents going forward. That balance of hard work and raw talent is what pushed him quickly through the youth ranks. By 2016, the club couldn't ignore him anymore. He was promoted to Fiorentina's first team, and from his very first appearance, you could see that he belonged at that level. He wasn't intimidated by Serie A defenders. He was running at them, taking risks and creating chances. It wasn't long before he became one of Fiorentina's most important players, not just because of goals or assists, but because of the way he lifted the team whenever he was on the pitch. Fiorentina became the stage where Chiesa showed he was ready for something bigger, and soon enough, Juventus came calling, with an offer too big for either him or Fiorentina to turn down. On October 5, 2020, Chiesa took a significant step. He joined Juventus on a 2-year loan deal that was structured in a very calculated way. €3 million for the first season, €7 million for the second, and then an obligation to buy for €40 million plus €10 million in add-ons. That's how highly Juve rated him. They were essentially betting their future on him. His debut summed up exactly what Chiesa was about. He provided an assist for Alvaro Morata against Crotone, showing his quality immediately, but he also picked up a straight red card in that same match. That's the thing with him. Fearless, sometimes a little too aggressive, but never hiding. Just 3 days later, he was already making his Champions League debut in a win against Dynamo Kyiv. And by December, he had scored the first Champions League goal in the return fixture against the same side. But what really stood out was his consistency across that first season. 15 goals and 12 assists in all competitions is an incredible return for someone in his first year at a new club, especially one the size of Juventus. He wasn't scoring tap-ins either. He was decisive in big games. He was stretching defences with his pace, and he gave Juventus an edge they had been missing. And while Juve were benefiting from his rise, so was the national team. His form that year carried into Italy duty, where he helped the Azzurri to a third-place finish in the Nations League. But it was the summer of 2021, at Euro 2020, where the whole world would really understand just how good Federico Chiesa was. Euro 2020 was a turning point in Chiesa's career. The moment he went from being a rising star in Italy to a name the whole world started paying attention to. Italy had a strong squad, but whenever the team needed something extra, Chiesa was the one who delivered. His dribbling was electric. His direct running tore through defenses, and most importantly, he had that confidence to take responsibility when the pressure was at its highest. The goal against Austria in the round of 16 was the spark that changed everything. A sharp finish that showed both composure and class. Then came the semi-final against Spain, where Italy needed someone to break the deadlock. Chiesa stepped up again, curling a brilliant shot into the far corner. Those were the kinds of moments that defined him at the tournament. He didn't shy away. He thrived when the stage was the biggest. Italy went all the way, beating England in the final at Wembley, and even though he didn't score that night, Chiesa was one of the most dangerous players on the pitch until injury forced him off. By the end of the tournament, he wasn't just a key part of Italy's success, he was one of the faces of it. He even went on to win the Italian Footballer of the Year award in 2021, a recognition of just how special his performances had been. At that point, Chiesa wasn't just seen as Juventus' future, he was seen as a player who could lead Italian football into a new era. Bayern Munich was so impressed that there were talks of a €100 million bid, with Julian Nagelsmann openly praising him. But Juventus had no interest in selling. Chiesa was untouchable, the post-Ronaldo project player. And then, just when it looked like his career was set to explode to even greater heights, everything started to unravel. After Euro 2020, everyone thought Chiesa was about to hit another level, but instead, his progress was stopped by a brutal mix of injuries and poor circumstances. From September 2021 to January 2024, he was sidelined 17 different times. The worst of them came in January 2022 when he tore his cruciate ligament. That injury alone kept him out for nearly 10 months. For a player whose entire game is built on speed, sharp changes of direction and explosiveness, that was devastating. But it wasn't just the injuries. Chiesa also had the misfortune of spending most of that time under Massimiliano Allegri. Allegri's second spell at Juventus was extremely controversial. Slow, defensive football that never really suited attacking players. Chiesa, who thrives on open spaces and one-on-one situations, was often played out of position as a central striker, and whenever he drifted back out wide, Allegri would demand he come inside again. The result was a frustrated Chiesa, often subbed off around the hour mark, unable to show his best qualities. His numbers reflect that struggle. Under Pirlo, in his first season, he had 14 goals. In 3 years under Allegri, he managed just 18 in total. The contrast was huge, and it was clear that his development was stalling. What made it worse was seeing his confidence drop. There were games where he looked more concerned about fitting into the system than expressing himself, and for a player like Chiesa, that hesitation takes away what makes him special. By the end of Allegri's tenure, it wasn't just about bad luck anymore. Chiesa's career felt like it was drifting off track. But then came a change. Allegri was sacked, and Juventus turned to Thiago Motta, a coach known for giving wingers freedom and responsibility. For many, that looked like the perfect chance for Chiesa to restart. When Thiago Motta was appointed, most people thought it was finally the moment Chiesa would be revived. Motta's system at Bologna relied heavily on wingers, giving them freedom to attack and stretch defenses, exactly the type of environment where Chiesa should thrive. But surprisingly, it didn't work out that way. Motta often preferred other options. Samuel Bangula, Andrea Cambiasso, even Timothy Weah. Chiesa found himself pushed further down the pecking order, and that was only half of the problem. At the same time, he was negotiating a new contract, asking for higher wages. Juventus, already frustrated with his form and injury history, didn't think he was worth that kind of investment anymore. The relationship broke down quickly. The outcome was shocking. Just a couple of years earlier, Bayern Munich were prepared to spend close to €100 million on him. Now, Juventus were willing to let him go for less than $15 million. Liverpool stepped in and the deal was done. For a player once seen as Italy's future and Juve's cornerstone, it felt like a huge fall. But even at Liverpool, his first season wasn't smooth.
It's been so far a great day, and I'm so happy to be a Liverpool player. When Richard Hughes called me and he said, "Do you want to join Liverpool?" and the coach called me, I said yes immediately, because I know the history of this club. I know what it represents to the fan, and so I'm so happy, and I can't wait to get started.
he had to compete directly with Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo for a spot on the left wing, and that limited his chances. Across the whole campaign, Chiesa only managed 466 minutes, scoring 2 goals and providing 2 assists in 14 appearances. For a player of his talent, those numbers were nowhere near enough. At one point, it wasn't even clear if he'd play enough games to qualify for a medal. It seemed like Chiesa's story was heading toward another disappointment, but if there is one thing about Chiesa, he was always ready to represent. But football has a way of surprising us, and the new season brought a fresh twist. This season feels different for Federico Chiesa. The shift came when Liverpool decided to sell Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich. That move instantly opened a space on the left wing, a role that Chiesa has always felt most comfortable in. For the first time since joining Liverpool, he wasn't battling constantly for scraps of minutes behind established starters. Suddenly, there was a path laid out in front of him, and under Arne Slot, he finally had the chance to prove himself again. What's impressed most is how quickly he's grabbed the opportunity. In just 6 games, Chiesa has already produced 2 goals and 2 assists, nearly matching his entire output from last season. But here's the real kicker. He's done it in just 153 minutes. That efficiency says everything. It's not that he's playing more cautiously or trying to ease his way in. He's sharp, decisive, and he's making an impact every time he steps onto the pitch. The confidence is written all over his game. He's back driving directly at defenders, forcing them onto the back foot and making those trademark diagonal runs into dangerous spaces. You can see his energy in the way he presses too. He's not just waiting for the ball, he's hunting it down, leading from the front. That's the version of Chiesa fans fell in love with at Euro 2020. Fearless, direct, and impossible to ignore. What stands out even more is the contrast with last season. Back then, he looked hesitant, almost like a player worried about making mistakes, unsure of where he fit in the system. Now, the hesitation is gone. His body language tells you everything. The way he demands the ball, the way he takes on his man without thinking twice, and the way he celebrates every goal or assist with visible relief. It feels like the weight is off his shoulders. But here's the key question. Will Arne Slot fully trust him with a starting role? Right now he's proving his worth in shorter bursts, but if he's given a run of games, there's every reason to believe Liverpool could unlock the Chiesa that once had Europe's giants circling with €100 million offers. For Liverpool, it could mean they've just rediscovered a world-class winger for a bargain price. And for Chiesa, it's more than just a good run of form. It feels like redemption. After the injuries, the setbacks, the fall from Juventus' golden boy to almost forgotten at Anfield, this version of Chiesa looks hungry to remind everyone exactly who he is. The only question left is simple. Are we witnessing the true rebirth of Federico Chiesa? Or is this just a short-lived purple patch? But what do you think? Can he go back to being his best? Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our last video. Thank you.